Well, hi. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I also want to thank the members of the Cabinet who are here with us this morning, as well as my Democratic colleagues from the other wing, especially our champions on the Joint Committee on Finance, who have been putting in tireless hours to send me the best darn budget possible. So thank you for your work, and I also want to thank the folks from the State Budget Office and from the Building Commission staff, and of course, the people that work with me in the Governor's Office. So how about a round of applause for all that? So during my first term as governor, I signed 2 biennial budgets that made generational investments in key areas that really made a difference, and while using my broad constitutional veto authority to improve those budgets sent to me by the Republicans in the legislature. So we've accomplished a lot over the last 4 years. We've invested in our shared priorities, including schools and education, delivering tax relief for working families, increasing access to affordable health care, fixing our roads and bridges, supporting our small businesses, veterans, farmers, and agricultural industries, expanding high-speed internet, addressing climate change and protecting our natural resources, as well as bolstering our workforce to maintain economic momentum. So where do we start? After 30 years of deficits, we have had 3 consecutive fiscal years with a positive balance in our general fund, and we ended the fiscal year with a record-setting $4.6 billion balance. We've paid down various debts. We have had the lowest unemployment rate in the state's history, and we've had the highest number of people employed ever in our state history. And our state's rainy day fund is at the highest level ever, a record $1.8 billion, which is more than 5 times what it was when I took this office. So we began this budget process with historic opportunity and with that historic responsibility, not to be careless, but to stay well within our means while investing in needs that have long been neglected. In many ways, Republicans in the legislature have failed to meet this historic moment. They sent the budget back to my desk without making critical investments in key areas that they know and have acknowledged are essential to the success of our state. And they did so while providing no real justifications, any kind of substantive debate, or any meaningful alternative. That decision is, to put it simply, is an abdication of duty. Since day one, my budgets have always been about pragmatic solutions, like state funding for high-speed broadband, like affordable and accessible child care, like substantial categorical aid increases for our schools, investing in our University of Wisconsin system and our technical college, providing targeted tax relief for caregivers, parents, seniors, and veterans and their spouses, expanding Badger Care and paid family leave, legalizing and taxing marijuana, just like alcohol. Folks, these are not controversial concepts at all. In light of these short-sighted decisions, there are those who would have me veto the entire budget, to send the legislature back to the drawing board and ask them to start from scratch. Vetoing this entire budget would mean abandoning priorities and ideas that I've spent 4 years advocating for. It would mean leaving schools and communities in a lurch after rightfully securing historic increases for the first time in years. It would mean forging the first Republican effort to address PFAS after years of inaction at this budget, and this budget includes $125 million to address and prevent PFAS contamination. It would mean forfeiting one of the largest investments in state history in workforce housing, a $525 million investment in expanding access getting access to affordable housing statewide, which is a critical starting point if we want to even begin to address our state's workforce challenges in the long term. And it would mean turning our back on our justice system workforce, our state workforce, our tourism industry, our farmers and producers, and our veterans, among others. So we are here today because while Republicans in the legislature might be perfectly comfortable abdicating the duty we share, I'm not. My focus has always been and always will be the people of the state, to whom I have pledged to always to try to do the right thing. This is a pledge, why I am enacting the budget with substantial improvements today. This budget provides a historic increase to support our local communities statewide, representing a generational increase while allowing for future growth and ensuring the city of Milwaukee and the county of Milwaukee don't face an imminent fiscal cliff. Under our bipartisan compromise, most municipalities across our state will see more than a 20% increase in state rate. This budget also builds on our work to do what's best for our kids and with a historic budget investments in K through 12 statewide. Now, I know that this isn't everything that I propose in my budget, far from it. But this budget does maintain 2/3 funding, and with revenue limit increasing for the upcoming school year, we are providing more than $1 billion in spendable revenue for K through 12 schools. That's money that can be used in the classroom for teachers and kids. This includes a $325 per pupil revenue limit adjustment in each year of the biennium. And while I've been able to unilaterally over the last 4 years increase aid per student by over $300, we know that we will still have a lot of work to do and ensure that state investments can keep up with inflation. So I have also used my broad veto authority to provide school districts with predictable long-term increases for the foreseeable future. This budget also provides $50 million to improve reading and literacy outcomes for K through 12 students and $30 million over the biennium to continue to support school-based mental health services statewide. It's a year of mental health, folks. We'll also reach 33.3% reimbursement for special education and increase the low revenue ceiling from $10,000 to $11,000 per student. This budget, with the help of my vetoes, will provide $15 million in additional support for our state's child care providers. And by the way, part of having a strong workforce is investing in higher education. So I'm glad that the Republicans took my veto threats seriously when they promised to gut our University of Wisconsin system by more than $32 million. At one point, even threatening to cut hundreds of millions of dollars. And decided at the end to provide an opportunity for the UW system to retain that $32 million in this final budget. But I also want to be clear. Republicans' decision to prolong their decade-long war on higher education by failing to provide meaningful investments in our University of Wisconsin system and our technical colleges is short-sighted, misguided, and wrong for the workforce, wrong for our economy and our state. So we're going to give the UW system the ability to keep 188 positions working on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Allowing our state to continue to be competitive in recruiting and retaining talented students and workers. Additionally, I was disappointed that Republicans chose to reject my middle-class tax cut plan, which would have provided $1.2 billion in tax relief. But using my broad veto authority, I'm doing what I can to ensure that tax relief goes to working families who need help affording rising costs, not the wealthiest taxpayers in Wisconsin. Feel free. I'm also pleased that this budget provides substantial and well-deserved increase in compensation for our correctional officers, youth counselors, psychiatric care technicians, assistant district attorneys, and public defenders. It also provides sizable investments in tourism, marketing, and advertising, and includes resources necessary to continue our work fixing our roads and making sure our infrastructure is built for a workforce and economy in the 21st century. Now, even as I'm glad that the legislature joined me in making critical investments in several key areas, the fact remains that this budget remains imperfect and incomplete. Of urgent concern to me as governor is that while this budget makes some critical investments to help support some portions of our state workforce, Republicans return this budget to me without critical components of my comprehensive plan to address workforce challenges that plague our state. So today, I'm enacting this budget and giving the legislature a second chance. I'm using my broad constitutional veto authority to ensure ample state resources are readily available for the legislature to complete their work on this budget, to do the right thing, to focus on real solutions for the urgent challenges facing our state. For starters, the legislature must make substantial investments necessary to stabilize our state's child care industry and ensure child care is affordable and accessible so that we can keep parents in our workforce. Frankly, failing to do so will be a disaster for employers, our workforce, and our state's economy. And yes, that means the legislature should also expand paid family leave, invest state resources in high-speed internet, and make substantial investments in education at every level, including our higher education institutions. These efforts, along with other key provisions I included in my proposed biennial budget, are essential for maintaining our economic momentum and retaining and recruiting workers across the state. So while I sign this budget today, I urge members of the legislature to continue the work on this budget throughout the remainder of this legislative session so that we can bolster our state's workforce, maintain our economic momentum, and most importantly, do the right thing for Wisconsin. So thank you very much. And now I'll hand things over to Elmer Moore Jr., Executive Director of the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority, to talk more about how this budget will expand access to affordable, safe housing in communities across the state. Elmer, you're up.
I'm just going to repeat, $525 million. That was insert for applause. Yeah. Today is a great day in Wisconsin. We are making a historic investment thanks to our incredible governor and a bipartisan collection of legislators, making this unprecedented $525 million investment in workforce housing. Insert applause. The workforce housing bill package will empower WIDA to make the necessary investments in infrastructure, in rehabilitation loans, and in supporting the development of affordable housing that will move us steps closer to assuring that everyone in Wisconsin has access to the safe, stable, affordable housing that they deserve. I am going to take this opportunity to thank Governor Evers again for his unwavering support of housing as a core human need, as well as Representative Brooks and Senator Quinn and the many authors of the Workforce Housing Package for spearheading efforts to address our housing needs. This action today affirms our position that affordable housing is truly a bipartisan concern because we are in a housing crisis. All people across our state deserve to have access to affordable housing options because they need it to thrive. We stand ready at WIDA to implement these new programs that will enable more people in Wisconsin to have an affordable place to call home. Thank you and congratulations to all of us. And now please welcome Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, Secretary Craig Thompson.
Agriculture?
Oh, Secretary of Transportation.
Thank you. I think I just got promoted. Randy, thank you, Executive Director Moore. Thank you, Governor Evers. I am really excited to be able to be here with all of you today to recognize the accomplishments and talk about the great work that we're going to be able to do with everything that's in this new budget. The 2023-2025 biennial budget builds on all that we have accomplished together over the past 4 years. Previous administrations and legislatures neglected to invest in transportation for decades, and that neglect showed in our deteriorated roads. Many people here in this room today, I know, will remember the transportation budget held up the overall budget for years and years. This is our third budget in a row where we're investing new ongoing revenue into our transportation system. Governor Evers' commitment to transportation, combined with the investments made over the past two budgets, as well as the bipartisan infrastructure law, have allowed our department to deliver a robust construction program with improvements being felt by residents throughout the state. Since 2019, we've improved more than 5,800 miles of roads and nearly 1,600 bridges across Wisconsin. This budget will continue our progress toward improving our infrastructure, whether that's reconstructing the Blotnick Bridge in Superior, a vital connector between Wisconsin and Minnesota, or making needed repairs to the Ray Nitschke Memorial Bridge in Brown County, or fixing any number of the miles of highways and bridges in between. This budget will allow our department to continue making real progress in our effort to build a 21st century infrastructure that meets the needs of a 21st century workforce and economy. It's vital that all levels of government work together to build Wisconsin's infrastructure for the future. And that's why the shared revenue increases, in addition to the transportation budget within this budget, are so critically important. They allow us to continue our important work with communities to improve the roads and bridges that we all rely on. Almost 90% of the center lane miles in Wisconsin are owned and operated by local units of government. And this budget provides significant increase in support to local communities statewide. It increases general transportation aids for local governments by 8% over the biennium. It increases the local road improvement program by 8% over the biennium, which will allow local governments to continue improving seriously deteriorating highways, town roads, city and village streets. There's $45 million for local bridge programming that will ensure Wisconsin's bridges remain safe and reliable, and as well as $12.5 million that will allow us to work with our local partners to be able to assess the agriculture, smaller bridges that are so important to our rural communities. There's $150 million for the brand new agriculture road improvement program that will keep the connection between farm fields and markets strong and our rural areas vital. There's more than an 8% increase in our highway system maintenance and operations that will allow us to modernize pavement marking, which will greatly improve safety. And connecting highway aids were increased by 25% under this budget. As I mentioned before, with 90% of the lane miles being taken care of at the local level, all of these state aids to our local governments are critically important, but our local governments also on their end fund a majority of the infrastructure. And much like what I talked about with transportation, they went for decades without any increases in shared revenue, which strapped their ability to be able to invest in our infrastructure when they also had to compete that against juvenile justice and courts and human service and recycling and all of those things. So this historic investment in shared revenue is going to build upon the increased aids that we're getting them at the state level so that the local governments can put their resources that they're getting into our infrastructure as well. So with all of these things, thank you. All of these things combined are going to mean that the people of Wisconsin are going to see an improved infrastructure that will meet our 21st century workforce needs. And with that, it is my honor to be able to introduce the Department of Agriculture Secretary, Randy Romansky.
Thank you, Secretary Thompson. Well, you do have to grab that with purpose. There we go. All those jokes notwithstanding, it's really fitting that I'm speaking after Secretary Thompson because there are many things that Governor Evers has prioritized as investments since he first took office. And agriculture and transportation are intricately linked, and he's consistently made those kinds of investments. And the emphasis that Secretary Thompson was placing on local roads is key here because in Wisconsin, a lot of commerce starts on a local road. And in Wisconsin, a lot of that commerce starts with a farmer or a processor, and we're grateful for that. And just to paint a bigger picture, agriculture in Wisconsin is almost a $105 billion industry. It's a major economic engine. It's also an industry that's part of Wisconsin's past, present, and future. It's an industry that employs a lot of Wisconsinites. 1 in 9 people working in a job in the state of Wisconsin right now is working in a job related to agriculture to this day. And the key here is that it takes investment to fortify that foundation. And as I said, Governor Evers has consistently prioritized investments in Wisconsin agriculture. That's why I'm pleased to join Governor Evers today as he signs this budget. It provides strong and needed investments for the industry, such as additional dairy processor grants, continuing nitrogen optimization funding, and increasing meat processing grants, just to name a few. Being a partner with the industry to help them make these investments in their industry, in their business that generates revenue for the local economy. He's also continued investments in several items that he's prioritized since he first took office. Ongoing funding for programs to increase exports of Wisconsin agricultural products around the world. Funds to support the popular and effective producer-led watershed groups. And county conservation staff, the boots on the ground that work with farmers daily to protect their land and water, because their land and water is Wisconsin's land and water. I've actually heard it from many farmers. The comment that is pretty consistent is, we take care of the land and water because the land and water takes care of us. Finally, in a year that the governor has declared the year of mental health, he's once again provided funding to support DACCAP's Farm Center and its Farmer Wellness Program, a program that was established to provide a 24/7 helpline and other programs to help farmers address mental wellness. Farming is not a 9-to-5 job. Farmers should have access to that kind of programming to help them out. Investments in our agricultural foundation are an investment in Wisconsin's economy. Thank you, Governor Evers, for your leadership on investments, education, and resources for the agriculture industry.
Kind of budget, folks. And I'm going to have these young people help me distribute pens. How about that? All right. The date is. Here we go. All right. You ready to pass out pens? Put one in everybody's hand. You gonna help? Yes, you can. Can you help too? Also? Pass them out. There you go. Don't feel free to. Sure.
You grab some more, we'll pass them back. You grab some more, we'll pass them back. There's like 2 rolls. They might get lost.
Make sure all the people over there get some. Here you go, pass some back.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, actually.
Splitting of the sea.
Can you take some more over there?
They're more needed back there.
You did a great job. That was a long time ago.
Can you take some more over there? Pass it back.
One more. We got one more.
Everybody got one? Come on through.
Did all the kids get one?
I hope they are.
All right. David, how are you?
Actually, after this month.
All right. Whoa. It's now time for a few questions. I'm sorry, say that again.
Next, the top income tax deduction, 7.5%. Do you have it remain in place for passed this budget?
We have four, two of them, the two highest, we remove the money to have them be where they were before. So everybody will receive some tax relief, about 175 million, if I'm not mistaken, what we hope. Yes. Any other questions?
Governor, on the UW system, the 188 positions, how are you able to retain that?
Through a veto. And the system can use those positions for any reason. They could use it for the diversity work, but they retain those 188 positions.
As
far as the highest tax bracket, that's staying at the current level, is that what you think?
Yes. So they will get tax relief also, but not nearly as much as they would have otherwise.
Republicans that say, Illinois has got this flat tax of 4.95, we can't compete with some of the neighboring states, obviously Minnesota is much higher, but what do you say about making the state more attractive by lowering the highest income tax bracket?
Well, I know the other states that have that have trouble finding people too. It's my belief that the middle class in the state of Wisconsin is where we should be supporting those cuts in the most efficient way possible.
Do your vetoes preserve the four tax brackets?
Yes.
That exist currently?
Yes.
Governor, would you consider this a compromise between Republicans and you, this budget?
There's a lot of things that I didn't like about it, and I'm sure there's some things that I vetoed that Republicans don't like. So, yes, I guess it's a compromise, but the bottom line is, and I'll just use this as an example, for anybody to think that childcare is teetering on its on a very, very edge of a cliff. Thank you. That they are, and if we want to have enough people to do the job, we can't take half of them out of the workforce, either men or women, and so we have to do something about that. And so there's all sorts of opportunities. We left enough money in the budget for the Republicans and the Democrats and the legislature together to come up with some solutions, and that's what we expect.
Your child care program going, because I spoke to a Brookfield child care center and they were talking about how they were able to add a lot of jobs to continuing education.
Right.
So it's 15 million, is that enough?
Oh, hell no, absolutely not. I mean, that's a pittance. Our proposal in this budget, I think it was $300 million. So is $15 million a big number for me personally? Yeah, it's a big number. But to make sure that we have an early childhood system that works for everybody, that keeps people in the workforce, that want to be in the workforce, that $15 million will not do it, not even close.
EIVW as a political ideology, can you respond to that?
Yeah, I think that's the wrong interpretation. That's a talking point from the national level that people are taking on DEI. The fact of the matter is, Kohler Company, Rockwell, you name it, any large company in the state of Wisconsin has DEI efforts so that they can get enough people to do the work for them. And suddenly we're going to say this is a divisive thing? Give me a break. That is something that, if you're looking for a bottom line, we don't have it yet because we don't know what the expenditures for this fiscal year is. But there will be money available for them to do the right thing, especially in childcare. Yeah, well, it looks like it works. You're going to ask the Milwaukee County and City of Milwaukee folks standing behind me. This is a big deal for them. And if you think about Milwaukee County and the City of Milwaukee, what a important economic driver they are for the state of Wisconsin and our ability to come together and solve problems in that arena, it was huge. It was huge what was accomplished in the area of affordable housing. It was huge. You talk about the agricultural roads piece. I mean, it's something that, frankly, people don't think about on a regular basis. Well, they should. I mean, when we want to get product from a farm to a processor to our homes, it starts with not having roads that have weight limits, and you have to have 3 trucks taking stuff rather than 1. And so there is lots of wins here in this, and bipartisanship does work. I do believe that we will have adequate resources going forward for the legislature to consider other things like childcare.
Last question. For the UW.
Well, they went away from the $32 million, the Joint Finance Committee and UW will have to figure out what that means around workforce. So I do believe that UW will come up with a plan to get that $32 million. But the end of the day, do I think that our University of Wisconsin system and our technical college system can survive well with no increase? Hell no. But we need to, there's compromises and there's compromises, but I am concerned about that as much as childcare. Thanks. There we go.
Now is always on.
Get the Channel 3000 app, activate the push alerts, and we will send you breaking news, traffic, and weather alerts as it happens.
The Channel 3000 app. Get it now.
Powered by News 3 Now.